These are Subito knotted shells into them? Oh, not silver. Okay. Replay that. Yeah. Wearing dark colors.
This next one?
Yeah,
This is the one everyone else has to count.
yeah, okay. Yes, yeah.
We have other markings in that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
black and white dress? Yeah. I don't think so. I think she's wearing a blue dress.
Kate's all 3 pieces in Trotta. With repeats. Every section repeats. Yes, they do.
What? It,
You get a sign from the love. Yeah.
oh, there it is.
Yeah. I forgot what it is.
Please be seated. Members of the class of 2026, faculty and staff, distinguished guests, families, and friends, welcome to the 171st commencement ceremony for the Washington and Lee School of Law. That's right. We gather this morning to celebrate the achievements of our graduates and to share their excitement about the future that awaits them. This ceremony marks the beginning of a new chapter in the life of each graduate. Just as surely it marks the ending of another. You've spent 3 years together in this beautiful place. It has shaped you as individuals and as a class. Together you've studied, argued, and developed the habits of mind that characterize good lawyers. You've made lasting friendships that will give you pleasure and support wherever you go. Before you set out on your different paths, I want you to savor your final moments together this morning here on this historic campus that's been your shared home. Our law school, your law school, is the 16th oldest in the United States. Its origins reflect the long and lasting connections between the university and the community in which we live. Lexington Law School was founded in 1849 by Judge Brockenbrough, a local lawyer and federal judge. He operated it out of a building on the corner of Nelson and Jefferson Streets that some of you may know as the Palms, a delicious irony. The law school was incorporated into Washington College in 1866. And for most of its long history, it operated out of Tucker Hall, which is the building on the colonnade right over your left shoulder, named for John Tucker, who served as Attorney General of Virginia and a U.S. Congressman before becoming Dean of the law school in 1893. Tucker Hall contains the two-story library where Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell and several American Bar Association presidents, governors, and many other distinguished alumni received their legal education. Crossing the ravine in 1977 to the brand new Lewis Hall, where you received your legal education, the law school was at the forefront of the university's expansion on the back campus. As the undergraduates followed your lead across Woods Creek, the law school again became geographically central, reflecting its historical and contemporary significance to Washington and Lee. The tradition of excellence at the Washington and Lee School of Law stretches backward now 160 years, but it also aspires ever forward in keeping with our motto, non incautus futuri, not unmindful of the future. And you all are now a part of this great tradition. Take W&L, the place, the people, the lessons learned with you into the world, and you and the world will be better for it. I congratulate you, and I now call upon Dean Melanie Wilson to continue the ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Dudley. What a happy day. Congratulations, law class of 2026. I join with every member of the university and certainly every member of our law school community in celebrating you and your incredible achievements. Let me begin with a few thank yous. First, I want to recognize and thank the members of the Platform Party, President Will Dudley, of course, Provost Lena Hill, Dean Rob Strawn of the Williams School of Commerce, Economics, and Politics, Paul Youngman, Dean of the College, Michelle Lyon-Drumble, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Maria Saez-Tatman, Associate Dean of Law Student Affairs, Community and Belonging, Greg Parker, our Professor of Music and the University Marshal, Andreina Arroyo, our Director of Law Records, and of course, our very special guest and featured speaker who you'll hear from in just a bit, Professor Brian Murchison. Graduates, this is your day for sure, but this 3-year-long journey was not one you took alone. We should thank the parents, grandparents, spouses, partners, children, siblings, and other friends and loyal supporters. During the past 3 years, they have celebrated your wins. They have consoled you through your disappointments. Without their support, moral, emotional, even sometimes financial, the 3-year journey would have been much more stressful and difficult. Whether they're here today in the audience celebrating with you or here in spirit celebrating from a distance, they deserve our thanks and their congratulations too. Please help me thank and congratulate them. Family, friends, I realize that we have made it increasingly difficult on you to win a single argument with one of these graduates. I'm sorry for that, but you can blame my very talented colleagues, many of whom are in this audience in the front couple of rows. Our accomplished and dedicated faculty have taught these graduates to anticipate your arguments, to analyze all sides of an issue, to verify every relevant fact. In essence, in 3 short years, they have taught these great graduates to think like lawyers. We are incredibly fortunate at W&L Law to have an exceptional group of faculty who care deeply about our graduates and students' success, their well-being, and their personal and professional growth of every single student. We also enjoy a dedicated team of staff who support our educational mission and foster and protect our close-knit community, a community that's grounded in honor and integrity. These faculty and these staff have shared their knowledge, their expertise, their time, and especially their passion with each of our graduates. Graduates, I'd ask you to join me in thanking these faculty, administrators, and staff for their commitment to you and for their hard and sometimes underappreciated work. I look out at you and feel tremendous joy and tremendous optimism for you and for your future. Think about how far you've climbed on your professional journey. In your 1L year, you were challenged to learn how to read a legal opinion critically and to distinguish a tort from a contract. You were asked to understand the rule against perpetuities, and frankly, none of us understand that except for maybe Professors Fairfield, Fraley, and Seaman. And you were asked to do that in your first year. You quickly realized that memorizing rules and black-letter law is important, but also insufficient. Law school requires deep analysis and the application of established rules to novel fact patterns. You had to develop a new vocabulary and adopt a new approach to solving problems. Despite the challenges, you absolutely persevered, and indeed, you thrived. You built a 1L community that was supportive as well as impressive, and not just for your law school flag football league skills. You were exposed to new ideas, developed new abilities, and practiced professional skills these past 3 years, preparing you well to launch into a successful next chapter. I've watched you learn, grow, and support one another as you developed into professionals who we are very proud to call W&L lawyers, lawyers who will change lives and communities for the better. You arrived having studied at 83 different undergraduate institutions and from 21 states and the District of Columbia, 6 foreign countries. Less than 20% of you called Virginia home at that time, and 21% of you were the first in your family to graduate from college, let alone to go to law school. Many of you speak multiple languages, including Arabic, Cantonese, French, German, Hebrew, Italian, Korean, Mandarin, Portuguese, Russian, Serbian, Spanish, Swahili, and many others. You enjoy snowboarding, golf, puzzling, rock climbing, writing poetry, cooking, ice hockey, and hip-hop dance. Many of you competed in college sports, including baseball, basketball, cross country, rowing, rugby, soccer, I try to combine those two, and track and field. Your class includes actors, a bagpiper, Eagle Scouts, and several who served our military. You are also the most racially and ethnically rich class in our law school's history. With your incredible and different backgrounds and experiences, you came here. You embraced the W&L law culture, and you found common ground in each other as you faced intellectual challenges on your way to more excellence. Maybe flag football was the secret to that community, or it could have been the legal league soccer team and games. Either way, informal sports are only a small part of how you spent your time at W&L. The members of the class of 2026 shined in so many different ways, including in the wonderful student competitions organized by the Moot Court Executive Board. This year, under the outstanding leadership of Nicole Gia as chair and Katie Taney, Guy Manick, and Caden Porzio as vice chairs. More than 50 of your class showcased your impressive oral advocacy during the John W. Davis Moot Court Competition, your 2L year, with Guy Manick winning Best Oralist and Maya Phillips earning runner-up competition status. They argued before real judges in a packed Millhiser Moot Court room with strong competition from Talia Elliott and Katie Taney, who were also finalists. Members of the class of 2026 also excelled in other school-wide competitions, including Matthew Beck and Maya Phillips, who won the client counseling competition, just beating out Evans Dotis and Preston Laws in a very close final round. Jeremy Thompson showed off strong evidence and advocacy abilities to win the mock trial competition, with Caden Porzio grabbing runner-up recognition in a wonderful final that also highlighted the impressive trial skills of finalists Jalen Yeager and Aya Hobaika. Malia DiVincenzi and Emilio Avila also impressed in winning the mediation competition against Ahmed Bhutto and Quan Nguyen. And so many of you demonstrated your impressive negotiations abilities in the Robert J. Gray Jr. competition, culminating in an exciting final round with Lindsay Linko and Ben Wood winning, and Lily Marshall and Allison Ortegon awarded runner-up recognition. This class also added significantly to the law school's intellectual dialogue and culture. For example, Sylvia Montiel Morales and Susan Wenjugu, they represented a client who had for 15 years struggled to become a U.S. citizen. And with their help, and only with their help and preparation, the client successfully navigated a critical interview with the officer of the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services and secured that long-awaited citizenship status. You hosted a highly successful 2025 Law Review Student Note Colloquium featuring Alex Hudson for her article on using intellectual property law to protect the audio of murder victims, and Tina Pham, whose note focuses on education as a right. Both articles were elected for publication in the Washington Lee Law Review because of their excellence and for presentation at the colloquium as the two most outstanding student scholarly law review works. Similarly, Simone Gibbs's note examining pretrial solitary confinement was selected for publication in the Washington and Lee Journal of Civil Rights and Social Justice and won the 2024 Halper Award, which recognizes the best student note submitted for publication in the journal each year. And let's not forget Will Vardy, who co-authored both a scholarly article and a book chapter with Professor Mark Drumble. Our journals hosted successful symposia relying on the expertise of the law faculty and journal advisors. Tanner Hine, symposium editor for the Law Review, and Chloe Sin, symposium editor for the Journal of Civil Rights and Social Justice, collaborating with members of the German Law Journal and with support from the editors-in-chief, Kate Risser and Nathan Hasty, as well as members of the entire board, organized wonderful and engaging panels of experts and speakers on topics such as separation of powers, current threats to democracy, and nationwide injunctions post-CASA. And big thanks go to co-presidents of the Women Law Students Organization, Marta Stevenson and Emma Claire Canterbury, for hosting a wonderful symposium this February on law of belonging, women, family, health, and citizenship in a changing America. Many of you also took time from your rigorous schedules to pursue activities beyond your studies and intellectual engagement, Lindsay Lanco taught fitness classes at Flex Studio in downtown Lexington. And Gabriella Losi, she volunteered with the Community Table, an organization devoted to creating a sense of belonging through shared meals. All of you brought your enthusiasm to my annual law school field day, showing off your people skills with Mingle Bingo, and many of you joined my Wellbeing Tuesdays too. I think Leslie Alvarado Millan and Jack Leeton probably were the most involved in the 1L year, but so many of you took part one way or another, and especially when we engaged in community runs. I was particularly thankful that 1L's Nicole Gia and Caden Porzio joined me for my first 4-mile trail run that first year, the Filthy 4 race at Brushy Hills, and we've only had a few skinned knees as a result, so we counted that as a win. And so many of you ran the Chessie, and I won't say with me because you were so much faster, but Jack Halligan, Nicole Gia, Lillian Sampson, Marta Stevenson, Caden Porzio, and many others, including our own Professor Stanton, braved the cold and the early morning in pursuit of health and community. Members of the class of 2026, you also contributed incredible service to your classmates and to future students. Some of you served as Curtis Fellows, which are so important as peer mentors. Emilio Avila, Simone Gibbs, Nathan Hasty, Elizabeth Hertzberg, Guy Manick, Quan Nguyen, Allison Ortegon, Cody Page, Caroline Penfield, and Nate Rush. You effectively guided, mentored, encouraged the 1Ls, and special recognition, of course, goes to this year's head Curtis Fellows, Lily Marshall and Sydney Johnson, who provided not only mentorship to the 1Ls as Curtis Fellows, but also direction and leadership as head Curtis Fellows, preparing the next generation of fellows. Some of you served as law ambassadors, hosting and speaking with prospective and admitted students, sharing your guidance and wisdom and explaining that we are a small community comprised of people of all backgrounds and from all parts of the country. Thank you for that service. Allie Ortegon from Texas, Caroline Penfield from Alabama, Chloe Sin from Virginia, Gabriella Losi from Colorado, Jack Halligan from New Jersey, Jeremy Thompson from West Virginia, Leslie Alvarado Millan from California, Lily Sampson from Virginia, Lily Marshall from Florida, Lindsay Lanco from South Carolina, Lucy Tao from China, Maxine Lee from Colorado, Simone Gibbs from Virginia, and Tyler Sheeta from New Jersey. The Ratchford Fellows played a similar mentorship role in the Career Office of Strategy with Lindsay Lanco, Guy Manick, and John Reynolds reading resumes and practicing interviews with their junior colleagues. Then there were also the Burke Scholars. Mary Jane Apostle, Ahmed Bhutto, and Bryce Tenberg worked as legal research Burke Scholars, serving as teaching assistants, helping 1Ls with legal research. And Shelby Brown, Alex Hudson, Adnan Kiyoshi, Tyler Sheeta, Marta Stevenson, and Danny Westhausen assisted our legal writing professors and 1L students as peer mentors to sharpen their critical writing, editing, and analysis skills. I love that many of you gathered on weekdays and weekends and weeknights to spend time together, whether for a Halloween party, this year's softball event at UVA, or the annual murder mystery dinner hosted by Law Student Affairs. You brought so many judges and other dignitaries to our campus. Thank you to Aya Hobaika, President, and Jack Leeton, Vice President of the Federalist Society, for facilitating a number of exceptional panels and speakers, including visits from Judge Chad Riedler and Judge Eric Murphy of the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. Justin Carter and Xander Davis, as President and Vice President of the American Constitution Society, thank you for collaborating with the Office of Career Strategy to host another wonderful Supreme Court preview evening with Professors Fraley, Fife, Klein, and Seaman discussing some of the most interesting Supreme Court cases of the term. And we all owe thanks to Shelby Brown for serving as Student Bar Association president, to Sydney Johnson for her service as vice president, and to Leslie Alvarado Millan for her work as Justice at Large for the Student Judicial Council. We enjoyed an exceptional Lewis Powell lecture this semester with a conversation between Justice Powell's son, Lewis Powell III, and our own Professor Brian Murchison, thanks to the Powell Board, led by Jack Halligan and Lindsay Lanco, co-presidents, and Preston Laws and Bid Wood, event directors. Working together, the class of 2026 added strong value to the community. Some of you took part when managing families, including small children and occasionally even twins, while also earning your law degree. Patrick Burr, David Crand, Christian Davis, Jack Leedon, Yinan Wu, you did it. And Patrick, you did it while also serving as 3L class representative on the executive committee for the honor system. This, friends, is a small sample of your activities, achievements, and the positive impact the members of this class, that is the law class of 2026, have already made, even before you've graduated, before becoming practicing lawyers that you came here to become. I could go on and on and on about your engagement and about your achievements and your activities. Each of you have truly contributed to the WNL community. I have no doubt that you're going to take your talents, your legal knowledge out into the world and support your new communities. Many of you have already decided what's next. You're headed to firms and judicial clerkships and prosecutors' offices and many other exciting places near and far. 3 of you, in fact, are going to work together in the same district attorney's office in Brooklyn, New York. Tommy Berg, Emma Gillum, Marta Stevenson, as a former prosecutor, I see you. Some of you are still weighing your options. Please know that we are here every step with you, now and in years to come, whether you're preparing for the bar exam or you're pursuing your career goals. When I look out at you and think about this class and all the opportunities that await you, I'm struck by some recent remarks from Double General William Hill, class of 74 undergrad and 77 law. We were in Atlanta just a couple weeks back for a law school reception with alumni. And William Hill spoke to the crowd, or as I call him, Judge Hill, because he was the judge before I tried my first jury trial in Fulton County, Georgia State Court. At any rate, Judge Hill talked about how divisive the United States has become and how litigation has become more adversarial than necessary. But he also reflected on his time at Washington and Lee and noted that when he interacts with a lawyer who graduated from our law school, he expects a different, a better experience. He knows that he can trust a WNL lawyer, even someone he does not know personally. He automatically expects that they will be a person of the highest integrity and honesty. He talked about the bond he feels with his own generation of lawyers and with your generation, although you're graduating 4 decades later. He talked about the fact that there's this bond because everyone is tied together by the same expectations of honesty, civil dialogue, and integrity. I hope you can appreciate how special and important this community bond is, and correspondingly, how each of the alumni are connected and dedicated to you and your success because you share that bond and that you will also be tied to those who graduate a decade after you in this same way. As you move from law student to lawyer today, you bring not only your skills, your abilities, your experiences, and education gained over the past 3 years, but also decades of WNL law lawyers behind you who have walked the same path. As well-prepared WNL lawyers with this incredibly strong and broad network and community supporting you, you are ready to lead in your own way. The entire WNL law community is proud of you. We wish you tremendous success and a fulfilling career. Congratulations and welcome to the legal profession. And now to the conferring of the degrees. Members of the law class of 2026, please rise. President Dudley, I have the great honor to recognize the 120 candidates for the Juris Doctor degree. They have been examined by the faculty and approved by the Board of Trustees. They are to be congratulated on their exceptional legal knowledge and preparation. I ask you, by your official act, to confer upon them the law degree.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty and approval by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer the degree of Juris Doctor of Washington and Lee University. Please come forward to receive your diploma as your name is called by Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Michelle Drumble. I ask that the audience hold its applause. I know you will ignore that, but I ask you to hold your applause until all graduates have received their diplomas.
Zachary Abbas. Leslie Alvarado Millan. Mark Anderson. Mary Jane Apostle. Emilia Avila. Matthew Dalton Beck. Thomas John Berg. Ahmed Bhutto in absentia. Amna Bilal. Trevor Eliason Bowman. Hannah Jane Bradley. Zachary Joseph Brockway. Blair Francis Brown. Shelby Madison Brown. William Patrick Burr. Emma Claire Darrow Canterbury. Lucy Tao. Justin Anthony Carter. David Lawrence Crand. Chandler Carmian Cummings McBride. Allison Rebecca Sear. Alexander Davies. Christian Davis. Allison Spencer DeBerry. Madison Malia Kaanehi DiVincenzi. Evans Nicholas Dotis. Talia Lee Elliott. Natalie Essex. Kevin Eming Fan. Karen Yan Fing. Hazel Fernandez. Sean Christopher Fitzpatrick. Seth Fleming. Michaela Renee Faust. Luke Stolte Frericks. Noah Christopher Gallagher. Christian Michael Garnett. Simone Rashad Gibbs. Emma Victoria Gillum. Alon Garkovsky. John Xavier Halligan. Nathan Eugene Hasty. Allison Constance Herman. Elizabeth Ann Hertzberg. Tanner Ford Hines. Aya Ali Hobaika. Nathan Howell. Alexandra Marie Hudson. Kylie Jackson Rousseau. Nicole Faye Gia. Sydney Johnson. Adnan Kayoshi. Edward Clark Keogh. Benjamin Coburn. Rexton Laird. Lindsay Catherine Lenko. Julia Ann Lanning. William Preston Laws. Catherine Rush Lee. Jack Darrell Leeton. Maxine Lee. Adalia Yotto. Cody Nathaniel Losey. Gabriella Lynn Losey. Mahek Marva Majid. Guy Manick. Sarah Lillian Marshall. Caroline Stetson Martin. Michael Patrick McCarthy. Lauren Rose McLaughlin. Henry Branham McNeely III. Sage Mahindru. Michael Stephen Melch Jr. Peter Cole Mitchell. Kyle William Moats. Sylvia Montiel Morales. Amanda Mulligan. Benjamin D. Neal. Quan Augustin Nguyen. Jasmine Mary Oman. Scott Brandon Opal. Allison Ortegon. Oluwasejuwula Olamigoke Rachel Oshin. Michael O'Sullivan. Cody Howell Page. And Jong Moses Park. Caroline Ellis Penfield. Tina Pham. Maya Phillips in absentia. Caden Riley Porzio. Daniel Serhii Potapinko. Michael Desmond Powell. John Joseph Reynolds Jr. Catherine Patricia Risser. Brandon Robert. Connor Edward Runyon. Nathan Rush. Lillian Onikachi Sampson. Tyler Robert Cheetah. Chloe Bohan Sin. Benjamin William Smith. Ross Dean Stalcup. Joshua Benjamin Stanton. Marta Elizabeth Stevenson. David Christian Tall. Bryce Salvatore Tenberg. Catherine Aiden Taney. Jeremy Isaiah Thompson. Cooper William Vardy. Susan Gabrielle Wanguju. Danielle Washausen. Lance Webb in absentia. Benjamin Stewart Wood. Yunan Wu in absentia. Yorsanat Orlikbai. Jennifer Yang. Brian Anthony Yanone. Jalen Miriam Yeager. Joshua Zilker.
Please join me in congratulating the class of 2026. In just a moment, I'll invite Dean Wilson to give a proper introduction to this year's distinguished commencement speaker, our very own Washington and Lee law professor, Brian Murchison. Before I do, I'd like to offer just a few brief reflections of my own on this legendary faculty member. I arrived at W&L almost a decade ago in 2017, and just a few months after I started, the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, which was organized around a prominent statue of Robert E. Lee, ignited passionate feelings here on campus. My fervent hope as a brand new president was to channel those passions into thoughtful and productive dialogue. Easier said than done. I resolved to appoint a commission to examine the history of our university and how we can best teach and represent it. It seemed like a good idea. But who on earth could lead such an undertaking? I needed someone wise like Solomon, brave like Achilles, and universally respected like Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa. Being brand new myself, I didn't know a soul. So I made discreet inquiries. Are there any members of our community, I quietly asked around, who are exceptionally wise, brave, and enjoy the respect of essentially everyone? What I heard again and again was Brian Murchison. So I asked Brian Murchison, whom I did not know and who did not know me, to lead that impossibly difficult project. And because Brian has always done and continues always to do whatever his beloved university needs him to do, Brian said yes. He took it on to his everlasting credit and the everlasting benefit of Washington and Lee. I also hear Brian's name when I ask law students, as I often do, what's your favorite course? They look at me and they say, torts with Professor Murchison, or administrative law with Professor Murchison. And I have never been to law school, but I know for a fact that anybody who can make torts and administrative law popular is a truly great teacher. Finally, in addition to being an exemplary university citizen and an extraordinary professor, Brian is a great man and a good friend. There is no one with whom I would rather share a beer and commiserate about the sad fortunes of our Washington Commanders. May they one day win another Super Bowl to sweeten his retirement. Please join me in thanking Brian Murchison for everything that he has done for Washington and Lee University and generations of its students. Now I would like to invite Dean Melanie Wilson to formally introduce Professor Murchison as this year's featured commencement speaker. Dean Wilson.
Thank you. I could not be more honored and more delighted to introduce our own Brian Murchison. You know that he is the Charles S. Rowe Professor of Law. He joined our faculty at Washington and Lee in, he would mumble at this point, but 1982. He focuses his teaching and scholarship on the First Amendment, on administrative law, mass media law, and torts. Professor Murchison's articles have appeared in a number of scholarly publications over the years. I can't go into all those, or we'd be here all afternoon, but they include the Columbia Journal of Law and the Arts, the Harvard Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Law Review, the North Carolina Law Review, the Georgia Law Review, the Emory Law Journal, and many others. He has been recognized with numerous awards for scholarship, and also students have awarded him 16, and now I guess, I don't know, it might be 17 because he just received one yesterday, 17 different teaching honors. In 1988, he won the Virginia Council of Higher Education's Outstanding Faculty Award, the Commonwealth's highest honor for university faculty recognizing excellence in teaching, research, and scholarship, mentoring, and public service. At WNL Law, he has served as interim dean, as director of the Francis Lewis Law Center, which is responsible for enriching the intellectual life of Washington and Lee University School of Law community, and for supporting the research and scholarship of our faculty. He is also co-founded or co-founder of the Black Lung Legal Clinic, which is so important to the experiential learning of our students, serving as supervising attorney for 3 years. At the university level, Professor Murchison has served on so many committees, including numerous search committees to fill leadership positions. That includes a search committee for one of the university's presidents. He also directed the Roger Mudd Center for Ethics. The executive committee awarded him the William W. Pusey Award in 2008 as the faculty member or administrator who has made the greatest contribution to the university. Professor Murchison received his BA and his Juris Doctor from Yale University. He served in the Peace Corps in Benin, West Africa, before attending law school. He practiced law as an associate in DC before joining WNL Law faculty. He is beloved by the faculty, he is beloved by his staff colleagues, by the students, and by alumni. It is a great and wonderful privilege for me to invite him to the podium to give the remarks today. Please join me in a very warm welcome for our own Brian Murchison.
Thank you. Thank you. So, dear members of the graduating class, and to everyone supporting them today, I so appreciate being invited to speak today. Have I really been on the faculty as long as they say? Can we check that? I could believe 14 years. I could even believe 24 years. But yesterday somebody said it was 44 years, and that seems excessive. It sounds as if I got into a stagecoach in the 19th century and sort of forgot to retire until today. Actually, my wife, Ann, and I first pulled into Lexington in December of 1981 for me to be interviewed for the job. That was in the 20th century. Relying on bad directions and without the help of GPS or cell phones, we drove from DC to Charlottesville and then over that mountain in a furious blizzard of ice and snow. Our 2-year-old son, Matt, was in the back seat, enchanted by this trip. But we had trouble staying on the road. When we finally got to Route 11 and drove into town, there was not a snowflake falling. The streets were dry. We checked into a perfect hotel. Now we all were enchanted. And Lexington has been a great home for us ever since. Our 2 other kids, Abby and Spence, were born here in Lexington. My love of W&L runs deep, most probably because the place expects so much of us. It isn't enough to be a good teacher and a decent scholar. The ethos of the faculty, I could see from the start, was that we were to be excellent teachers and excellent scholars, and that the two were related, and both were required for the benefit of our students. The message was always that teaching here was a privilege and a service, and our job was nothing less than to lift away a little bit of ignorance and even fear from those who were put in our trust. Lofty aspirations and goals worth pursuing. So, members of the graduating class, it was that sort of place you drove into 3 years ago as you arrived in Lexington, not in snow and ice, but in scorching August weather. You took those first few steps in your legal education. You purchased those 20-pound case books. You figured out what the first assignments were. You met with your Courage Fellows for tea and sympathy. You began to read the cases seemingly composed in a bizarre ancient dialect. And then you got down to real questions like, what do I do if I get called on tomorrow, the first day of class? And doesn't one of the professors wear black robes on the first day? What kind of place is this? Since then, you've moved at lightning speed, somehow mastering topics that you never knew existed. The dense thickets of the tax code, the wild rapids of the UCC, the twists and turns of the restatement torts, second or even third. Sometimes I think of you, class of 2026, sometimes I think of you as if you were those 2 young people in the Paulsgraf case, racing into the Long Island Railroad station that Sunday morning in 1920 and running towards a moving train. Yeah, you're those folks sprinting onto the platform And it's the rest of us trying to help you on to that train. Of course, non-negligently. Trying to help you get to the next place on your journey. Hasn't that been law school for you? Movement at high velocity? Well, today, you have a brief respite from such drama. No moving trains for the next 15 minutes. So we can talk a little bit about what we have in common, graduating class. You and I will fondly salute the colonnade, and then we'll venture down some different roads, won't we? Away from this intricately beautiful world here at W&L. Lately, I've been hearing a lot of echoes in my mind, seemingly from the past 40 years. And I've been seeing lots of faces in my mind. I think these are the voices and faces of the many collaborations that I've been part of over the years. I look out now over you, over the many people in attendance today, and I remember the things we worked on together. What vivid collaborations made my time here so rich. Some involved team teaching with a professor from another department. Some involved committee work, say to find a new president or to think through our history. Some were spent planning alumni colleges and special events. These ties created wonderful bonds of friendship and growth. From all this, I would greatly encourage you graduates to embrace the collaborations that you'll be joining throughout your own careers. Yeah, not all of your work will be collaborative, I get that, but much of it will be. You already know the importance of this. You've seen the advantages of putting more heads together in search of a theory or an argument. And you've seen that collaborating isn't always easy. It requires openness, compromise, patience, dedication, not to mention a sense of humor. So promise me that you will be the one that spurs to a happy collaboration, the people around you, and keeps it going when the context is right. Think of the brilliant recent voyage of Artemis II to the moon and back. One of those astronauts, Christina Cook, she later spoke of, quote, the crew that together made the journey. And she saw in it a hopeful metaphor, didn't she? Quote from Christina Cook, a crew is a group, she said, that is in it all the time, no matter what, that is stroking together every minute with the same purpose, that is willing to sacrifice silently for each other, that gives grace, that holds accountable. A crew is inescapably, beautifully, dutifully linked. Well, of course, as much as we savor the heartening success of Artemis II, the country writ large isn't very much like that crew, rather torn increasingly apart by legal and political strife. And more than ever, in many different legal fields, across the entire landscape, there is a crying need for access to legal services. The law is our society's currency, and those without access to legal help are simply cut off. So members of the graduating class, if my first wish is that you become smart collaborators, my second wish is that you develop expertise, whether centrally or on the side, in some field that needs effective pro bono services. W&L alum and trustee Jack Vardaman is an example. He was a bright young lawyer at Williams and Conley in D.C. in the 1960s, and he desperately wanted to get some experience. So at age 30, Vardaman volunteered to represent pro bono a citizens group in Memphis, Tennessee. Both Memphis and the U.S. government had approved running Interstate 40 through Overton Park in Memphis. You've read the case. But a citizens group wanted to preserve that park and all of the precious space of that park. Mr. Vardaman ended up taking the case. He argued that the statute had been misread by the city of Memphis and had been misread by the feds, that they hadn't really understood the key statute in the case. He took his interpretation all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and guess what? He won. I think, too, of civil rights attorney Brian Stevenson, who early in his career jumped into death penalty work pro bono and then built a career representing the unrepresented. Read his book, Just Mercy. He was unfazed by the cases he took on. He refused to let fear or self-doubt hold him back. Another classic illustration of pro bono legal assistance took place 40 years before the Revolutionary War and involved not a young idealist, but an attorney pretty much at the end of his career. This was the Zenger case in 1735. The owner of a printing press, John Peter Zenger, was jailed in New York Colony for printing a newspaper that dared to criticize the royal governor. Yeah, Mr. Zenger's paper, the Weekly Journal, mocked the governor's vanity and lambasted his efforts to meddle with the courts. The royal governor called these accusations seditious libel, worthy of arrest and trial. Not able to afford the exorbitant bail, Mr. Zenger spent 8 months in jail awaiting criminal trial. As the trial began, his 2 lawyers were disbarred by the bench for questioning the legality of the tribunal. A substitute lawyer was assigned to Mr. Zenger, but that person lacked experience and was known to favor the governor in all things. It looked like Mr. Zenger would be quickly convicted of seditious libel. But suddenly, into the courtroom came the slow, measured steps of an aged stranger. Andrew Hamilton, not Alexander Hamilton, but Andrew Hamilton, a lawyer in his late 60s from Philadelphia who had heard of this case, saw at once its importance, agreed to make the journey to New York Colony and mount a pro bono defense of Mr. Zenger. Hamilton, a skilled advocate with total knowledge of the common law, wasted no time launching into his arguments. He had the audacity to start by saying that seditious libel, properly understood, was speech that had to be proven false, and that the case should be thrown out because the prosecutor had made no attempt to prove that the statements of Zenger's newspaper were actually false. Second, Hamilton argued that any contrary precedent came from the court of the Star Chamber, a court that had long been denounced for its disregard of human rights. Then in his closing statement, the old lawyer offered as profound a defense of free speech and free press as any you'd find today. He said that natural law and common law gave Mr. Zenger, quote, a right to expose and to oppose arbitrary power by speaking and writing truth, unquote. The presiding judges, clearly rattled by this man, allowed the case to go to the jury, which acquitted Mr. Zenger. The old lawyer had won his case to loud cheers. He later published an account of the case, and there were 14 printings of that account before 1791, the date of the Bill of Rights. Thus began a strong and vital free speech tradition in the New World, all out of a pro bono case. Now, a third and final wish I leave with you today. It's a little more abstract, but humor me for 5 more minutes and then I'll sit down. My third wish is that you allow yourselves to expand what you know and understand of human experience. Yeah. A lawyer should be a person for all seasons. And you must be prepared to be that. A certain wisdom is needed. You will be asked to solve unanswerable problems. You may need to grasp much more of human nature than you ever expected. You will be faced with questions of judgment much more often than questions of law. How then are you to gain this sort of wisdom? What do you really know about people and their dreams and doubts? I urge you to embrace opportunities for deepening your own spirit in order to understand more of someone else's. Is there an example? Yes. You heard that Ann and I were teachers in Africa for 2 years after college. 20 years later, we went back. We'd been invited by Ghana and the U.S. Embassy to give some lectures about American law. So I did that. At the end of those 3 or 4 weeks, we hired a driver and traveled by land across several borders to Benin to revisit where we had met years before in the Peace Corps. Yes. We stopped first in the village on the Atlantic coast where Anne had lived and taught, and we then drove on to the town where I had done the same. As we entered the town, I began to hesitate about going back to the house where I had once lived. It had been 20 years, after all. I told myself not to bother the people that were living there now. When I had lived there, it had been the home of a public official. I had lived in some rooms upstairs. He and his wife were downstairs. He died suddenly, the landlord, while I was living there. I attended his funeral, which was an incredible ritual that went on for 3 or 4 days. Now, 20 years later, I thought, I'll just look at the house from the road and then just drive on. Something, though, made me tell the driver, stop. Before I knew it, I was standing at the front door, and something made me knock. The front yard was filling up with curious onlookers, believe me. The door opened. An African gentleman opened it, a gentle, slight man, perhaps not in good health, about my age. I awkwardly handed him my card. Yeah. And told him who I was, that I had lived in that house. It turned out that he was the son of my landlord. And all those years before, I had known his father. I told this gentleman that I had known his parents. I had been present at the father's funeral. Surprised, pleased, gracious. The man who answered the door tried to take all this in. He said he'd been in Europe at the time of his father's death and had not been able to come back for the funeral. Now here was someone, me, who had been there. Someone who could tell him about those days. We talked. It seemed that in a way, excuse me, I was a link to this man's past as he was a link to mine. We stood in front of that old house, a house both of us could call home. I think in a way the whole trip was for that moment, down a dusty road, on a day in the dry season, in a country on the equator, a moment of recognition between strangers yet friends. May you have moments like that one. My wish is that you do not shy away from them, as I almost did. Go ahead and knock on that door. And knock even without knowing who's on the other side of it. You will be a better lawyer and person if you venture at least sometimes beyond the realm of comfort into a world where much might actually be learned. So now, Godspeed, and thank you again for letting me part of this wonderful occasion. Thank you.
There were high expectations, but Professor Murchison did not disappoint. I'd like to invite now the 3L class president and vice president, Jack Halligan and Kate Risser, to come to the stage for presentation of the walking stick.
Thank you, Dean Wilson, and thank you all for being here. Congratulations to the class of 2026. Kate and I could not be more grateful to have taken on this adventure with you all. Joining the Washington and Lee community opens up doors to immense personal growth as individuals, students, and future attorneys. It is our relationships we share with each other and the faculty and staff of Washington and Lee University that makes this community so special. It's also what makes saying goodbye so hard. For over 40 years of dedication, thoughtfulness, and guidance, Professor Murchison, it is our honor to present you with this walking stick. This community owes you more of a debt than you could ever know.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you so much, Kate. Before I yield the floor to President Dudley to conclude our ceremony, I'd like to recognize the following staff members from the law school who retired in either 2025 or 2026. Mary Irvin, Andrea Hilton, and Joan Miller. And of course, I'd like to ask you to give one more very grand round of applause for our own Professor Brian Murchison. I also want to recognize and thank President Dudley. Most of you know that he has spent almost 10 years here at Washington and Lee, and he has been a huge supporter and huge friend to the law school, for which I and the law school remain greatly indebted. So thank you, President Dudley. And I now recognize President Dudley to close our ceremony.
Thank you, Dean Wilson. I told you all Brian Murchison was wise. We now bring these exercises to their conclusion by expressing our gratitude to everyone who's made this day possible. On behalf of the graduates, we thank the faculty who prepared you to begin your careers. We thank the alumni whose generosity has enhanced your education. We thank the university staff whose faithful performance of their duties has supported you in so many ways. And we thank your family and friends who've made it possible for you to be here. In closing, I join Professor Murchison and Dean Wilson in encouraging all of you, our graduates, to reflect upon what it means to enter the noble profession that is the practice of law. Each of you has the opportunity to do good and important work. Make W&L proud. Come back often to Lexington, where you will always be warmly welcome, and we will always be eager to hear how your lives and careers unfold. I wish you the very best. I hope you'll join us and your families will join us for luncheon on Cannon Green, which has been prepared by our outstanding catering team. This concludes the commencement ceremony. We are adjourned. Congratulations.